The proclamation of the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. When the Pharisees heard that Jesus had silenced the Sadducees, they assembled in a body, and one of them, a lawyer, in an attempt to trip him up, asked him, "Teacher, which commandment of the law is the greatest?" Jesus said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with your whole heart, with your whole soul, and with all your mind. This is the greatest and first commandment. The second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these two commandments the whole law is based, and the prophets as well." The Gospel of the Lord.
Our Gospel passage for this Sunday is taken from the Gospel of St. Matthew. We have been reflecting on love as the real direction and orientation of human life. We find the fulfillment of our lives in love. In the first reading from Exodus, God commands the Israelites to love their neighbor. Surprising neighbors, the alien, the outsider, the widows, the orphans, and the poor. These people should not be considered as other in the sense that we have nothing in common. No, God tells the Israelites, these people should remind you of who you are. You should see your past in them. You should see your longings in them, and so love them. And the love of neighbor is a desire of God. It is a commandment of God. It is not something that comes out of the blues. It is God who tells the Israelites, this is how you should love your neighbor. In the second reading, St. Paul, in his letter to the Thessalonians, exudes love for the neighbor, in this case, the Thessalonians. But in one important area, he manifests his love for the Thessalonians in the area of their faith life, which we should not neglect. While the corporal acts of love will remain necessary and indispensable, we should not forget to care for the spiritual needs of people. That is an important aspect of loving our neighbors. But in St. Paul, we see the motivation too. He loves the Thessalonians with his love for God. It is his passion for Jesus, his passion for the gospel that impels him in a way to love the Thessalonians more. So, the direction, the orientation of the life of the Apostle Paul is manifested in the coming together of two loves, love of God and love of neighbor. In the gospel, this becomes clearer coming from Jesus himself. Unfortunately, just like the past Sundays, our gospel passage begins with a rather bad intention on the part of the Pharisees. They would want to trap Jesus again, and this time through an expert in the law, a lawyer. If a lawyer asks you about the law, well, you can be tripped. You can be trapped, and you cannot trip. You can make a fool of yourself. When will we find love for Jesus among these people, like the religious leaders? And the question was tricky. Teacher, which commandment of the law is the greatest? If you were Jesus, you would really get confused. Remember that during the time of Christ, in the Hebrew Scriptures, And with the commentaries coming from the leaders or the teachers, they, according to experts, they were able to count, they say, around 613 commandments, precepts, and prohibitions. Now, if you are asked, of this more than 600 commandments that comprise the law, which is the greatest? I would not know how to choose among the more than 600. Maybe I would engage in some sort of an elimination process. Yes, there are more than 600, but let me concentrate on the 10 commandments, knowing that there are other commandments and precepts. Yes, that could have been done by Jesus. But Jesus, who claims that He did not come to abolish the law and the prophets, but to fulfill the law, knows what the commandment is all about. You may have 600, 700, 1,000 commandments, but Jesus knows what all the commandments are all about. Commandments coming from God are not just prohibitions. They are really God's way of orienting the human heart. Let us admit, brothers and sisters, the human heart has so many desires. And some of our desires are conflicting. We don't even understand how some of those desires are present in our hearts. We have so many plans, but we know that those plans don't always agree with one another. We have so many desires, so many plans, so many dreams, etc. How do we put order in all of them? How do we find the real direction that our hearts are looking for? That's the purpose of the commandments from God. They are not really just prohibitions. The prohibitions and the positive prescriptions are a way of orienting our hearts towards the real goal. So let us not look at commandments negatively. They are a help to our broken and even confused hearts. Knowing that the commandment is all about that, allowing human beings to reach their real destination and purpose in life, Jesus was able to go through all those more than 600 precepts and find the core. The first he quotes from Deuteronomy. You shall love the Lord your God with your whole heart, with your whole soul, and with all your mind. You shall love your God. You are not being told to love an idea, someone unknown. You love your God, the God who liberated you, the God who created you, the God who said, I am your God and you are my people. The God who is with you and for you and in you. And love is the orientation. You love God with your whole heart. The heart here is the center of sentiments, plans, and thoughts. The soul is the center of life and the willingness to live. The mind is not just one faculty. It is a symbol of the capacity of the human person to reach beyond itself. So, Jesus is telling this lawyer, one orientation of the commandment is for you to live the totality of your life for God, in love. And the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. You should be oriented also towards your neighbor in love. And the norm is, what you will do for yourself, you should be ready to do for your neighbor, because your neighbor is your own. See yourself in it. And so, Jesus brings these two commandments, one from Deuteronomy, one from Leviticus. And by bringing them together, He is telling us the orientation of your life, the direction of your life is in love. But it must be total, the whole of you, and directed to everyone, God and neighbor. Oh, it simplifies life. It simplifies life. And this commandment, if heeded, will not only purify us, it will lead us to true joy. It will lead us to the true direction that God intended for us. It will lead us to the fulfillment of the longings of our hearts. In the Philippines, we are celebrating this Sunday, Prison Awareness Sunday. I love visiting our brothers and sisters who are in prison. I was asked once why I've been doing it, visiting and celebrating Mass there. And without much reflection, I told the person interviewing me, whenever I go to the prison cells, I am reminded of who I am. And the interviewer was quite surprised. How is that possible, Your Eminence? Said, because I see in them myself. They're not the only sinners. I am one of them. And coming to them is a reminder that I belong to a community where we all need God's mercy, God's compassion, God's love. Coming to them, I see myself, and I hope, coming to them, I bring the love of God that embraces all of us. And so as brothers and sisters, we know we have one direction, God. If you have time this Sunday and these coming days, visit one of our brothers and sisters. See yourself in them, and with them, pray to the merciful God, the God who does not tire of loving us. The word has been exposed. Let us now fulfill it.